Have you ever been captivated by a speaker, only to realize there were no flashy slides or bright graphics? You're not alone. Studies show that up to 70% of audiences remember a speaker's message more than any visual aids used. Shocking, right? It turns out that the power of a great speech lies in the speaker, not the slides. Did you know that over 90% of people fear public speaking more than death? This fear can keep us from sharing our ideas and connecting with others. But what if I told you that you don't need to be a professional presenter or rely on fancy visuals to engage your audience? You can become a great speaker by mastering a few simple strategies. In this video, we'll explore the surprising truth: you can deliver powerful speeches using your voice, authenticity, and emotional storytelling, without any flashy visuals. We'll dive into techniques that will help you command the room, create memorable mental images, and resonate emotionally with your audience. Get ready to discover how to inspire, engage, and connect with your audience in a way that leaves a lasting impact. By the end, you'll see that the art of speaking is all about what you bring to the table, not what's on the screen. Let's get started. Chapter 1: The Power of Voice. Crafting a magnetic presence. Your voice is your greatest asset. Sure, visuals can support a message, but your voice carries the weight of your ideas. In a study by Albert Mehrabian, only 7% of communication was verbal, while 38% was vocal, tone, and 55% was non-verbal, body language. That means almost half of how people perceive your message comes from how you say it, not what you show. How can you harness this? Focus on your tone, pace, and pitch. A steady, well-controlled pace shows confidence, while slight pauses can build anticipation. Take a tip from famous speakers like Martin Luther King Jr., whose speeches had carefully measured pauses to emphasize points. He didn't rush through his words, and neither should you. Practice slowing down when you need to make a big point. Speed up when you're telling a story or getting to an exciting part. That variation keeps people hooked. Also, don't be afraid to play with your pitch. According to the Voice book by Kate DeVore, varying your pitch not only makes you more interesting to listen to but can also help emphasize key points. It's like underlining with your voice. Finally, remember that volume is about more than just being heard. Sometimes, lowering your voice can draw people in more effectively than shouting. Try this trick next time you want to make people lean in and really listen. Chapter 2: Authenticity speaks louder. Engaging without the gimmicks. Being authentic is one of the best ways to engage an audience. It's not about memorizing a script or following a formula. It's about sharing who you are and why you care. Studies show that speakers who share personal stories have a 65% better chance of engaging their audience than those who rely on data alone. People want to feel like they're talking to a real person, not a robot. Brené Brown, the author of Daring Greatly, talks about how vulnerability is actually a strength. When you're real with your audience, they connect with you on a deeper level. You don't need flashy visuals to do that. Start by sharing your why. Why is this topic important to you? Why should it matter to them? This is your chance to build a relationship with your audience. When you speak from the heart, your message hits harder than any visual aid could. One great example is Steve Jobs. During his Apple presentations, Jobs often shared personal stories and spoke in a conversational tone. He didn't need flashy visuals to convince people about the power of the iPhone. He spoke with passion and clarity, and that's what left a mark. So, be yourself. Speak to your audience like you're having a conversation. When you're genuine, people will listen. Chapter 3: Painting with Words. Creating mental images. Want to grab attention without a single slide? Paint pictures with your words. When you describe something vividly, the audience imagines it in their minds. Research from the University of California shows that people remember 65% of visual content they form in their heads compared to 10% of audio information alone. Instead of showing a graph, describe the impact of the numbers. If you're talking about a problem, don't just list facts, paint a picture of how it affects real people. For example, if you're discussing climate change, talk about what it feels like to walk through a drought-stricken area or how it smells after heavy rainfall in a normally dry desert. The key to doing this is using sensory language, words that tap into the 5 senses. Don't just say, "The forest was lush." Instead, say, "The forest was alive, with the scent of pine hanging thick in the air, and the ground soft underfoot from the morning rain." This level of detail helps people see your message. Another great way to engage the imagination is through metaphors. In Made to Stick, authors Chip and Dan Heath explain how analogies and metaphors make ideas more relatable and sticky. If your audience can visualize your concept through a metaphor, you don't need to rely on visuals. Remember how Shakespeare wrote that, "All the world's a stage." He didn't need diagrams. With just a few words, he sparked a powerful image that still resonates centuries later. You can do the same by choosing vivid, relatable language. If you're finding this helpful, don't forget to subscribe. More tips and techniques are coming your way to help you become a great speaker. Chapter 4: Command the Room. Body language that speaks volumes. Your body is always communicating, even when you're not speaking. In fact, research shows that 55% of communication is non-verbal, meaning your posture, gestures, and facial expressions matter more than you think. A great speech doesn't just come from your words but how you move and present yourself on stage. Think of how TED speakers use the stage. They don't hide behind a podium, they move with purpose. Their gestures are deliberate, their stances open and inviting. Open body language, arms uncrossed, standing tall, naturally draws people in. It signals confidence and encourages connection. Take Amy Cuddy's famous talk on power poses. Her research found that standing in a confident posture can actually make you feel more confident. This leads to stronger, more authentic delivery. So, before your next speech, try standing in a power pose for 2 minutes. It might sound silly, but it works. Eye contact is another powerful tool. It helps create a sense of personal connection with your audience. As public speaking expert Carmine Gallo notes in his book Talk Like TED, making eye contact for just a few seconds with different members of your audience makes you seem more trustworthy. Scan the room and try to speak to individuals, even in a large crowd. It makes your delivery feel more intimate, like a conversation rather than a lecture. Finally, avoid fidgeting or repetitive movements. These can be distracting and take away from your message. Keep your gestures purposeful. Think of how Barack Obama uses his hands when he speaks. Each movement is calm, controlled, and emphasizes what he's saying. It's never random. Chapter 5: The Minimalist Approach. When less becomes more. One of the most effective strategies for a powerful speech is simplicity. You don't need to overload your speech with complex jargon or endless slides to make your point. In fact, studies show that people remember only 10% of what they hear, 20% of what they read, but 80% of what they personally experience. That means the more direct and clear your message, the easier it is for people to retain it. Author William Zinsser, in his book on writing well, talks about how clarity is the result of eliminating clutter. This is especially true in public speaking. Too much information, too many visuals, or too much technical detail can overwhelm your audience. When in doubt, cut the fluff. Focus on the core message you want your audience to walk away with. Steve Jobs understood this well. During his legendary product launches, he didn't overwhelm audiences with data or cluttered slides. He kept the information clear, simple, and memorable. Instead of throwing out stats, he would say something like, "The iPhone fits comfortably in your pocket." Simple, relatable, and powerful. A minimalist approach also applies to visuals. If you choose to use slides, stick to the basics. Use minimal text and only one key point per slide. Studies show that slides with too much information split the audience's attention between reading and listening, reducing their overall retention of the message. Simple visuals, if used, should complement your speech, not compete with it. Minimalism isn't about stripping down for the sake of it. It's about making sure that everything you say and show serves your message. In The Elements of Style, William Strunk said, "Omit needless words." The same principle applies to speeches. Omit needless details. If you enjoyed these tips and want to learn more, subscribe to our channel. We have plenty more content that will help you become a confident and effective speaker.